What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and this one I want to break down what's going on with the overall market and break down some very important levels on SPY, Tesla, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of tickers out there. I'm going to talk about why the market is pumping the way it did, what data came out that was so important, and why this really did cause a massive move. But before I break anything down about all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am firstly not a financial planner, so take none of this as financial advice. And then don't forget about the Moomoo link. The offer ends very soon. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks plus a $50 cash reward. Offer ends in 2 days. Check it out before they run out. Anyways, let's talk about the market. How are things looking? SPY is testing the 448 resistance, looking very strong, trying to break out. And the question is, will the market continue pushing? Are we going to see some more resistance slow it down? And so far, the market is trying to push and push and push. It's not slowing down at the time I'm recording this. But the question is, why did the market break out like this? What data was I talking about earlier today that's going to cause some kind of big move? And then the answer was the JOLTS job openings came out. This was lower than expected by a long shot. And the market absolutely loved it. The market went wild when this came out. The job quits were very close to expectations, a little bit low, which wasn't that great, but the job openings were very low, and the market was excited because of this. You could see some headlines came out about how the US job openings fell in July by more than expected to more than 2-year lows, offering some evidence that the labor market is slowing down, the labor demand is cooling, and we're starting to see a softening of the labor market. That is some good news technically for what the Fed wants, because the Fed told us that if the labor market is too strong, they're going to be inclined to raising rates even more. The labor market is showing some signs of weakness. This is the first time in a while we actually saw like this much of weakness, and the market just loved it. The market's excited. The market wants to see more and more pain from the job sectors, which is going to de-incentivize the Fed to raise again. And the market's becoming more convinced that the Fed may not have to raise again, or they may just give us one more rate hike, if anything, before they end up pausing. So the market's excited, the market is happy, and SPY is continuing to break up. So what's going on in real time? Well, we have this unfilled gap at 448.5. SPY is going all the way up there, which is pretty insane. We're testing resistance now in very tight zones, however, because we pumped through all these different levels very fast. So if anything, we just broke resistance after resistance after resistance. Like, it was so quick. And now we have these very tight levels to watch for. We're going to be watching 448.5 on SPY. 448.25 has some resistance, but 448.5 is going to be the next level. If it breaks this, 449 is on the table technically, but the higher we go, the tighter the resistance is getting. So it's getting a little bit tighter now. And I don't expect it to break out way harder. I think we're like approaching our peak for the day. But if anything, I think the market's going to try to hold up. It still is technically strong. It's a little bit overbought, but as of right now, it's trying to push higher and higher. So watch 448.25. Above that, we have 448.5 for this unfilled gap. 449 is where we got projected in the past. That's going to be another level to watch for. If we get above that, 450 is on the table. So far, the market's holding up. It's continuing to break these levels, holding up quite nicely. So watch this level. We're currently at 448 on SPY. For the QQQ, we were talking about these imbalances. If we got some kind of bullish break, we had these imbalances. This actually brought this thing up to this high right here. The QQQ is very close to this high, just under 375. We're getting very close to it. We had 374 as resistance. The next level is going to be this high at 374.5. Then we have 375. We're very close. We have a nice cup-like formation that's forming. We're filling these imbalances, and it's looking pretty strong so far. As we approach this resistance, we have to watch it very carefully, and it's looking pretty strong so far. So the QQQ is holding up, the Nasdaq is holding up. What else is dictating the market would be Aapl. And before I talk about Aapl, let me just mention that if it comes down, you're going to be watching this previous imbalance becoming its support at 372.5 is the next major support. Below that, we have 371.5 and then 370 as supports for the QQQ if it does come down. But it's holding up nicely, trying to push up, and it's trying to hold above 374. The next level to watch for is going to be 374.5. Then we have 375 flat above that. So the QQQ is still holding up quite nicely, still looking resilient as of right now. Now for Aapl, okay, if we're looking at Aapl, even though the market's kind of overbought, Aapl just broke out. We were talking about this. I actually had these two possibilities drawn out yesterday, and you could see it went even higher than expected, right? I was talking about like 182 yesterday. Approaching that, we're all the way up to 183.5. We We also had the bearish case, but that didn't end up playing out. Instead, we broke well above this wedge. So quite good from Aapl so far, looking very, very strong, very, very resilient. And I also mentioned yesterday that if Aapl started breaking out, the market's going to follow it. Aapl was looking pretty strong on the daily chart. But I just wanted to be open-minded because of the data dropping. The data has helped Aapl continue to push. It still looks strong. There's nothing weak about this chart. Now we're forming this really nice looking cup. If we get a rejection, we're currently watching 183.5 as resistance. Above that, we have 184. If it breaks above those levels, 185 is a possibility for Aapl, which is where we have this unfilled gap. This gap resistance right about here at 185. And then if we break that, it could push all the way up to 190 to fill the gap, which is going to be insane. But I'm not going to worry about that just yet. 185 is going to be the next critical, like super strong resistance if we end up breaking above 184. And above that, below that, we have 183.5, which is our zone right now. We're kind of shopping around here. I think Apple is near its like peak. We might see it pump a little bit more. 184 is possible, but then it's going to start trading sideways. Breaks down 182.5. It's going to be the next major support below 183.5. So far, it's holding up very nicely. I think it's going to try to maintain these higher levels. I think the market is still very, very strong overall so far, right? From a technical standpoint, I know it's not what a lot of people want to hear, but it is what it is, right? For Nvda, this thing got the bounce. We were talking about this. We kept talking about this. I was telling you everyone about how we had this like bearish structure that was perpetuating. We're making these lows, this low, this low, this low. I wanted to see a change in market structure, and we have formed like this inverse head and shoulders like pattern, and then we got the higher low. We were talking about establishing a higher low. We bounced off the 200 EMA. It broke all the way up. We actually broke the resistance at 480, which is bullish. And now we're pushing for this 490 area. If it breaks 490, this imbalance exists right here at 502. We could see 502 if it manages to hold above 490 very, very nicely. For now, just watch 490 as resistance. Nvidia is looking quite good so far. A nice accumulation for a nice push to the upside. So far, so good from the stock. Sorry about that. Last but not least, for Tesla. Tesla stock is going to be the last one I talk about. For Tesla, it's also looking strong, very, very strong. Crazy breakout, crazy breakout from Tesla. Tesla went from 238 all the way up to 253, almost 255. That's pretty insane. The resistance to watch for is going to be 255 flats, like right about here. That's where our resistance is going to be. And then for support, we're watching 250, was this 253? We have some support there, then 252.5, 250, 247.5 is going to be our support zones. And then above that, right, we have 255 and then 257.5 on the table. Tesla has some tight resistance around the mid 250s, so I do believe it might slow down around here, but it's still, holding up nicely, right? Even if it does cool off a little bit, it's still fine. It's very, very strong, very resilient. It is overbought right now, so I would be anticipating it to pull back maybe later on, but for the time being, right now, at the time I'm recording this, we're not pulling back just yet. We're still holding up. We're still trying to push. The move is not done yet, so you want to watch and see where it ends up peaking. It has not shown signs that it peaked just yet. It may be close to its top around like the 255s, around there, but we're not quite there yet. We're getting very close. It's looking very strong, and we will see what happens once it ends up cooling off on the RSI. So the market's very strong, crazy breakout. What else is interesting is I want to check out how the dollar is looking. The dollar got the rejection, right? We were talking about the bearish divergence yesterday. Big rejection from the dollar. The dollar is cooling off. That's part of why the market is pumping. The 10-year treasury yield came down pretty hard, 2%, which is significant for its standards. Because of this, the market and the bonds market are anticipating the Fed may not be as hawkish. That is once again good news for the markets. And then what else is interesting is when you look at the VIX, here's the thing about the VIX. Yes, the VIX is dropping, but when we look at the 4-hour time frame, we have this head and shoulders, and it hasn't actually filled this gap, which means that if it breaks below this support right here at 14.7-ish, 14.8, if that breaks, it's going to come all the way down to the 13s, fill this gap down here, which means the market could have even more room for upside. But it depends on if the VIX ends up breaking this or not. The market is not done just yet, but we still have to watch those resistances that I mentioned just to be safe, okay? So look at the 4-hour time frame on SPY. Still looks bullish, still pushing. We're not done just yet. Watch resistance very carefully and be very careful. Do not chase in a market like this. I mean, I know it's very tempting to chase, but you have to be careful. I just want to let you guys know this was pretty wild. This was not what I was expecting, to be honest with you. Nobody expected the market to pump this hard, this fast over some jobs numbers. Crazy stuff are coming, and we have more data coming for the later days of the week, from PCE to the unemployment rate. That's all going to be coming out very soon. So anyways, just watch the levels. Be very, very mindful of support and resistance. Know the market is not done just yet at the time I'm recording this, and I'll see you guys in the next one very, very soon. Thank you, and peace out.